Yo. Welcome back to another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe. Like, subscribe, review, hit that check box. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Make sure you do all these things. If you do not, I have to assume that you do not pick up your dog's poop when you go outside. On today's episode, we will be talking to a very special guest, a first-time guest on this show, because we will be talking about a first-time topic, and that's baseball, baby. And to help me do that on this show, I have Lane Riordan here to help me talk.
What is up, man? I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here too, man, because I feel like baseball has kind of had a moment, or it's having a moment right now. And I just love to pick your brain about it. But unfortunately, before we start talking about actual baseball, we talk a little bit about the past, about the Negro Leagues, and more specifically about one Jackie Robinson. When we actually spoke, Lane, yesterday, I was just telling you I was driving on the Jackie Robinson highway, and there's a million things, not a million, but there's so many things in New York that are named after Jackie Robinson. I mean, I can't even count them. One of New York's great icons. I feel like people don't think of him like that, but one of New York greats icons. And I'm just going to read off of what happened for any of you all who were living on a rock or just off social media. The DOJ, the Department of Government Efficiency, was tasked with eliminating some cost cuts in waste, allegedly. And one of the things that they did was they actually took away Jackie Robinson's history of his military service, which I didn't know that at the time.
Same.
So
I didn't know.
In a weird way, this was good to just know this. And I'll read their official statement of what they said, because I think it's important that I read this whole thing. So we get down. This is the exact quote from there. Everyone at the Department of Defense loves Jackie Robinson, as well as Navajo code talkers, the Tuskegee Airmen, the Marines at Iowa Jamie, and so many others. We salute them for their strong and in many cases heroic service to our country. Full stop. We do not view or highlight them through the prism of immutable characteristics such as race, ethnicity, or sex. We do only recognize their patriotism and dedication to the war-fighting missions like every other American who has worn the uniform. DEI, discriminatory equity, ideology, that's really what they said, does the opposite. It divides the force, erodes unit cohesion, and interferes with the Service Corps war-fighting mission. We are pleased by the rapid compliance across the department with directives removing DEI content from all platforms. In the rare case that content is removed, either deliberately or by mistake, that is out of the clear outline scope of the directive. We instruct the components and they correct the content so that it recognizes our heroes for their decisive service alongside their fellow Americans, period. So the reason why I wanted to read that, as it was nonsense, was because part of that story that they said was the fact that Jackie Robinson was arrested for not sitting in the back of the bus when he was traveling during his wartime. So that was all bullshit.
100%. Absolutely 100% bullshit.
So Lane, I would just like to hear your thoughts a little bit on this incident with the great Jackie Robinson.
I mean, it's so dumb because it's part of the wider DEI removal from all websites related to the federal government. But which is dumb in its own right. Okay, that's dumb for a million reasons. But it's so silly in the way that this sort of propagandized vibe that they're bringing, removal of information. It creates an atmosphere where it actually brings attention to things that you just wouldn't have noticed. There's no way that I would have gone on the Department of Defense website, probably ever in my entire life, but now I have because of this. And I read this page this morning about Jackie Robinson and his time in the military and the time when a bus driver told him to go to the back of the bus and he refused and he had to go to a tribunal for it. and he was later honorably discharged. So all of this information,
Also, marking, just to make a point, 10 years before Rosa Parks ever did.
100%. Yeah. It's the type of thing where it's like, even when they're trying to do something shady, it still backfires. And it's like, now I know about this, and now a lot of other people know about it. It was on like the front page of Reddit this morning. Like that type of eyeballs that's hard to get. Really hard to get.
And I think the reason why I want to highlight this story is because for me personally, of the major sports, hockey, baseball, basketball, football, the most American, the most truly encapsulating American history is baseball. Like, baseball had its own segregated leagues. Baseball had its own people riding in different buses. The idea that baseball is as American can be, you know? And throughout its history, it truly is America's pastime. And the idea that you very clearly disrespected one of its great players. Now, I know baseball's one sport where it's hard to argue who the GOAT is of the sport, but the most well-known baseball player, I would say, across generations is Jackie Robinson. And the fact that this, like you said before, it almost did the thing that they didn't want to do. Almost, they highlighted something that, again, I had no idea it was even happening. Now, obviously, like, it's during the time where, you know, a lot of service members played sports, you know, so it shouldn't be something that I think is shocking in the sense of like, oh, that happened. But it's just something that we didn't know, or the fact that he was respectfully discharged. And I think the overall conversation of DEI, or whatever nonsense they try to make DEI actually sound out to be, has been this trying to almost rip back the layers of history to say that, no, we are all one the same. We are all one people. We are all quote unquote Americans. However, nothing throughout the history of America shows you that we all get treated the same as Americans. And I think the main point of them highlighting this, or this transaction being highlighted, shows that you can't just do that. You can't just pull these little threads out and expect that there's nothing to happen behind it. And the fact that it really took an uproar on Twitter, I think Jeff Passan was the guy who really pushed this forward to be something that we talked about, and for the conversation just to be highlighted, as you know, you just said.
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's this feeling that the story of Jackie Robinson, his blackness, is integral to the story that he told as a player. You know, he changed the game forever because of who he was. And the concept that you can look at his story and remove that part of his history from it is just nonsense. It's completely like BS.
Yeah. And so to slide into the future now, like I said before, how we started this podcast is, I felt like for a long time, baseball was dying. I thought it was done. Me personally. I thought the games were too long.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that we never cared about the star players. And I think the number one thing that I think a lot of people felt about this was the fact that you didn't see the best players in the most crucial times. But I think what's happening now with the rule changes, with bigger bases, with I would actually argue the emphasis on athleticism. I remember it's ironic to say now, but do you know who Nelly is, right? The rapper.
Yeah.
Okay. So Nelly went on first. Do you remember that? Do you know like Nelly had like a baseball career?
No, I did not. What's the baseball career?
Yeah, so he said this on First Take years ago.
Okay.
He was on because him and Ryan Howard were trying out for the Phillies. I believe they were both trying out for the Phillies or trying out for the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't remember which team, but he was in camp with him. And he loves baseball.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying that baseball is the one sport that feels like it almost takes athleticism and kind of like takes it away. Because his point was like, we shouldn't just have a home run derby. Why isn't there fastest around the bases, strongest arm in the field, right? Like these other events that might seem innocuous, but are entertaining and isn't this just 1-2, right? Because baseball, I feel like at one point got to you either hit a home run, you strike out, or you walk. And one of those things is really entertaining. The other two things aren't. So I would ask you, Lane, what was the thing, or maybe was there a moment, if you even agree with me, that you felt like baseball kind of maybe made this kind of push back into like the spotlight of just Americans' conversation?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right to point out the rule changes, for one. Like, if we look at the way that just the amount of time that a game takes, it's gone down in the last, 3 seasons since 2023. It's under 3 hours now. I think 2:40 is the average, which is still a lot of time. But I think the interesting thing with this is that while I agree that baseball is more front and center, and you can even look at the last World Series. I mean, Dodgers, Yankees, you can't get more big time than that. Like, that is a huge part of this. One of the problems with baseball's ability to be watched is that the length of the season, the amount of games, 162, is just too many. It's too ample. In the way that the opposite of this is football, which is a scarcity problem, where it's like each game matters so much. So each time a fan gets to watch that game, they're 100% engaged. And baseball doesn't have that. And they're never going to have that. So I think the question is about finding, where does baseball fit in if it isn't ever going to be, that way. And I think for me, it fits in the almost passive, but in a very positive sense of that, where you're checking in and out of your team throughout the year. You can't watch every single game. And the best way to do that is to have like individual people that you can really root for. And I think that this gets to the biggest part of this, is that we have true stars in the game of baseball now, in a way that I felt like we lacked for 10 years. I don't know. I feel like there was a huge gap when I was growing up where I was like, I don't really care about any of these people anymore. Sort of the post Mariano Rivera era, like post
You weren't
that.
chopping at the bit to get a Corey Bellinger jersey?
Exactly. So I feel like the thing is that stars are back in the game. Games are easier to watch. Your emphasis on athleticism is really important. More people are stealing. That is an exciting action every single time that happens. And I think in those three things in combination create for a product that is more enjoyable. Even if we see ESPN, for example, is leaning away from baseball. No more Sunday night games. So I think it may be becoming a better product, but it's interesting to see the way that, the wider industry might not be agreeing.
Yeah, that was an interesting move by them. And I remember Cowherd was talking about that being kind of like being not liking that. And I remember the whole thing about baseball is it's an innings eater, literally and figuratively. Like, you can throw there's Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. There's a baseball night in America. You can throw baseball on at all times. And it's just always on and it's always there. And like you said, right, I think we have not only just big stars, but we have stars where they are. You have Judge, Lindor, Soto, just in New York, just for example, right? You got Yamamoto, you got Shohei, you got Mookie Betts. They're just in LA. The Padres have big stars. The Red Sox might be making a move now with Garrett Crochet back with the team, and then Alex Bregman goes on the team, Rafael Devers. Like, it's not the fact that it's just stars per se. I think it's stars in the right places. And I think baseball, the reason why I think it has had this kind of push to the front recently is not, like you said, it's not just it's not just the changes to the rules. And it's not simply just that we have stars, but where the stars play, I think matter so much more now. And the fact that we can actually name, like I just named 7 baseball players. And if you asked me this 10 years ago, like name 7 baseball players not on your team, I would have been like, Bryce Harper, Corey Seager. Like,
yeah, totally.
It would have been tough. So For you exactly. I don't know which team you're most affiliated with, but is there like is there one aspect of the game that you think is like that needs to change, that needs to keep this momentum going? I personally think that the golden at bat was a cool idea.
Mm.
And I know that I'm no longer on Twitter, but from what I can tell, it didn't really get a lot of vibes. That for me, I think is great because I think in high leverage moments, like you just said, baseball is a long sport. It lacks urgency. So how do you get urgency more in the game? Okay, if I know I can basically put my best hitter in a spot for us to potentially win this game, that's drama. I'm watching all the way through because I know I can have a chance to do this. And I think that was a good idea. I don't see too many of the downsides of it if it's done properly, but I think that was a great kind of first thought to put it out there for people. But if you either like that idea, hated that idea, or was there something else that you think might be something that can really push the game forward?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting idea because it gets at what I enjoy about baseball a lot. Like going back to the World Baseball Classic 2 years ago, the finals, it ends with Trout versus Ohtani. And that moment, I have chills even talking about it. That moment is burned into my brain because it's like the best of the best going one-on-one. And that one-on-one nature to me is what is so cool about baseball because it's this like almost gladiator-esque fight between the pitcher and the hitter, all wrapped inside a team sport where you all need each other, but at the center of it is this beautiful like tugging back and forth relationship between the hitter and the pitcher. So I like that concept because I feel like that gets celebrated more, and we get to have these moments of pure urgency, which I think is a really good point on your part, where it's like baseball doesn't have that urgency, so manufacture it somehow. And it's one of the things that and I don't know, I'm really on the fence. I really want to hear your opinion on this too. So like the ghost runner rule, like in the extra innings, like putting a guy on second. I both love it and hate it in the way that I love that it creates this sense of urgency, this sense of excitement, but it also feels like it cheapens the win somehow. I don't know. What do you think?
So I've gone back and forth on this one. I think that it was mostly because as much as people loved it, I hated 17 inning games. I thought it's too long. I feel like fans check out. The game itself almost loses its importance because you're using so many relievers, you're using so many guys. You might have to even use a starter, to burn your guys. Like I remember the Mets played the Rockies back in like 2007. It went like 18 innings or not. Like no one wants to there's a point of too much, right? There's always overindulgence, right? I don't know what your favorite food is or your favorite dessert is, right? If you had it maybe once a day for a week, that whole week you might love it. If you did that for 2 months, you're gonna be like, all right, I'm sick of this shit. And I think baseball had that problem of overindulgence. So while I think, yeah, it's a little bit of like a cheap workaround to kind of get the games going, I like the fact that it can speed up the game. My thing about it, my only thing would have been, I would have rather put the runner instead of on second, on first.
Totally.
That way, I feel like you give a fairness to it, right? It's not like a little bloop single in and you're done, right?
Yeah.
But it might force a steal. Do you walk the guy? I think those little pieces of it can be added, but as it is right now, I think it's a fine rule.
Yeah, I agree. I would put him on first as well because I think that it also gives more choice to both teams. Like you just said, like you can send the guy, like, you can have him steal, but then that creates an interesting dynamic between like, he's going to steal because you need the guy on second. So then that creates even more excitement, more of the je ne sais quoi that we're looking for. Yeah. So I think that like maybe with a tweak here and there, but yeah.
Yeah. So now we can get on to the actual teams and the sports. I'm gonna fire some teams at you, and I'm just really curious about your opinion on them.
Cool.
It's one team that I think that we do this every year, and we're not talking about them. I think the Braves are gonna be really good.
Nice.
Like I've as a longtime Mets fan, it's been beaten into my brain. You don't count these dudes out. They print pitchers, print them. It's a new guy every single year. Schwarzenbeck, I can't remember this guy's name from last season. I'm gonna try and get his name back up if I even have it. But they played him. The Mets played this guy, like they faced him 3 times. Schwarzenbeck, I got him right. Spencer couldn't hit him. Couldn't hit him. And now you're telling me that they're going to have Spencer Strider and Acuna back, who one just won an MVP, and I would be shocked if Strider doesn't win or finish top 2 in the MVP. I think that they are a team that Vegas has them pretty good. I just had looked at their odds. Their odds to win, their favorites to win the division right now. Their regular season over under is 93.5, which is better than both the Phillies and the Mets. But I think that the Braves are a team that, while Vegas feels good about them, I don't feel like a lot of people are actually talking about them. So what do you feel about the Braves?
I mean, I think it's a good point. It's easy to forget these teams that are like always good. You know, it's easy to be like, well, of course the Braves are going to win 92 games. And then you're like, the Braves won 92 games again? Like, how the fuck do they keep doing this? And it's what you said. They print pitchers, they print catchers, or not catchers. They do print catchers because their starting catcher got injured and they already have a guy. His name is, I think it's
2
Gus
starting catchers.
Something. Gus.
They had, I don't know, Travis d'Arnaud, I'm pretty sure is still on the team.
He got injured. He hurt his hand in spring.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Not surprised. But why would I be surprised? 'Cause I think their other guy made the All-Star team.
Literally. Yeah, they have Drake Baldwin. Okay, that's the young kid that's supposed to be really good. They've got Sean Murphy, who's injured.
Murphy, that was his name, yeah.
Yeah, Sean Murphy got injured. Drake Baldwin. But who cares? Yeah, they just print players. They print players in a way that no other team is able to do, it seems like. They're able to sign them up, especially like international players, to contracts that are way more team beneficial. So I think it's important to highlight them. I think the most important piece is Spencer Strider, though, because if Spencer is the ace that we've been shown that he can be, if he doesn't get injured, this team is going to be an absolute like dynamite. That pitching rotation is going to be nasty if he can center it. And he's also just the type of guy that like seems to raise the floor around him. Like, people love him on the team. People love his energy. He seems like a good guy. Like, it has great team atmosphere vibes. So I think that while the Braves are probably, to me, the second team, obviously, after the Dodgers, they're still in a tiny bit of a tier below them, to me. To me, it's the Dodgers, and then it's everyone else. But yeah, I'd probably have them second. Do you feel like, I don't know, Acuna coming back? Do you feel like this is...
I mean, how many more major injuries can this guy have?
Totally.
I'm just, but it's so weird because I can't think of a great player off the top of my mind who wasn't a pitcher who got hurt like this. Like,
totally.
Judge had an injury, but he ran into a spot in the I guess the Dodgers. That was cement. That was more like a freak injury. This guy's had like 2 pretty serious injuries, sandwiched in between an MVP season, and I'm concerned about his health. But when I look down the roster, and when you had Ozuna, who was a top 5 MVP candidate, Austin Riley missed the back half of the season. He's coming back. Matt Olson just cranks out 35 and 100 every year. And people said he had a bad year last year.
It's insane.
He cranked out 30 and 100. It's like, that guy's really good. And so, like, Chris Harris, the center fielder,
Michael
dominant
Harris.
defensive player. So I think that the Braves are a team. I think that division is going to be the toughest division in baseball this year.
100%.
I agree. I think as much as the Padres are kind of always fighting with the Dodgers and they kind of go back and forth, I think the Dodgers clear them. I mean, if you even look at on FanDuel, they're up their chances to win the division. They're a minus 750, and the Padres are a really good team. So
Absurd.
I think that I agree with you on the overall state of the team per se. I think that it's a little bit of everyone else versus the Dodgers, but I definitely think the Braves are right up there. Is there like do you have a team that's like a surprise team in the National League that you think will be better than
It's the
better
D-backs.
than expected?
It's the D-backs. It's 100% the D-backs. They missed the playoffs last year, and they won 83 games, I think. They had an absolute stinker from Corbin. So I just don't think that he's going to be at that level of bad. They picked up Josh Naylor, who is like just an absolute solid bat. They have one of the best hitting catchers, even if it's not a power catcher, in Gurriel, or that other guy. No, it's Moreno. Gurriel's their outfielder, who's also an absolute
Who's really good rookie of the year.
Meter. He crushes. And the thing with that is that they also shored up their pitching. They got Corbin Burns in the offseason, and if Corbin is the ace that they think he's going to be, that team is going to be nasty. So it's the type of thing where they probably have offensively one of the best teams well-rounded in baseball. I literally didn't even mention Ketel Marte, who is probably their best hitter, because they have so many people all over that lineup that are nasty. They've got left-handers, they got right-handers. Ketel's a switch hitter. Going down that lineup, you are going to have a tough time every single time you face them. So if they're pitching, which was their biggest problem last year outside of Corbin shitting the bed, is better with Corbin Burns, then I think the D-backs are the surprising team. That's my take.
Plus 1,300 as of right now to win the division.
I don't bet on baseball. I don't bet on anything. But if I was betting, I would throw some light money on that.
Some light money.
What about you? Who's the surprise? Who's coming in?
So it's not more of a surprise. I'm interested in these two teams.
Okay.
And I think this speaks overall to the kind of sentiment of baseball. Same division. I'm looping these two teams in. It's the Reds and the Pirates. I look at both of them. They got two star players, each individually. Skeets, De La Cruz. And it feels as if one team knows that they have a young star and the other team doesn't. With the Reds, who they hire, Terry Francona, master of getting the most out of a roster. I absolutely think they're making the playoffs this year. They're the team I have. I like them way better than I like the Brewers. I don't love the Cubs at all. I think that division is up for grabs. If you look at it right now on FanDuel, Cubs are plus 15 or 115 to win the division, followed by the Brewers at plus 270, followed by the Reds at 440. And I overall just like the vibes. I love teams that are athletic and they run. And I think more and more and more teams that can manufacture runs, who don't have the star hitter, the guy that's going to give you, 35 and 100 on your team. You have to manufacture runs. You got to run. And I like the way that the Reds are just kind of overall set up. Whereas the Pirates, and this is what I talk about with overall baseball stuff, is baseball owners can convince their fans that no, we don't need to spend any money. We'll be good. And then you crap out and you lose 100 games. And then you wonder, whoa, why did the Yankees just sign my best player? I don't know. You didn't pay anyone on the team. And I'm really interested on the Pirates because, like I said, I think they have one great player. I think Paul Skeens is going to have almost a Jacob deGrom feel back in 2016, 17 when the Mets were awful. And it was basically you only went to the game to see deGrom pitch. And I think this guy is that good. And I'm interested to see in how that kind of captivates themselves. I don't think you can have one pitcher basically carry to the postseason. I think it's way too hard. I think pitchers get hurt all the time. And you are just limited to your pitching, right? His offense has to do what it has to do. and I don't love pretty much any of the hitters on their team outside of O'Neill. But those are the two teams I'm looking at because I feel like they're almost viewing their stars and going in different directions with them. So that's my take with those two guys.
I think okay. So here's a little bit of information. I'm a Cubs fan, and I super agree with you.
There it is.
I super agree with you. I am pretty low on this Cubs team. I'm pretty demoralized that we traded for Tucker and didn't immediately sign him to a long-term deal. The Ricketts family are garbage. I'm so annoyed. They're so frustrating.
But you got that World Series though.
Great. And, like we were like okay, obviously yes, that was a top 2 moment of my life. But the problem is we act like the Chicago Cubs act like they are not like the 5th biggest market in baseball all the time. They act like woe is me, I can't afford it constantly. Like the details on the Bregman deal where we were offering him 4 for $120. The Cubs were offering him 4 for $120. He signed with the Red Sox for 3 for $120. So it's like our AAV of him was like so much less. We're just, we just don't actually, we're not being serious. We're being unserious. Okay, Cubs ran over. I agree. I think the Reds are probably the best like value bet if we're talking from like a true betting point of view. I think the Reds are probably the best value bet. They have the most room to take off. They have an interesting lineup as well. Like outside of Ellie, whose speed is probably the most exciting thing in baseball when he's truly cooking. But like Tyler Stevenson is an incredible player. I know he's injured, so hopefully he comes back semi soon. But they have interesting people all the way across the lineup. They have Matt McClain, who's a utility player that hopefully can play like some second base and get on the field. He's hella interesting. They have Candelario, ex-Cub, ex-Oriole, ex-everybody, but that guy's awesome. Austin Hayes is fun as fuck. They have Gavin Lux, so ex-Dodger. They have like interesting players all the way around the field, and I just think that they have just an energy to them. It's sort of eye test vibes where it's just like that team looks better than the Cubs do or than the Brewers do, at least on paper. And then there's also a swag that Ellie brings that you want to root for, where it's like that's the type of superstar that you want to have in the game. It's a Ricky Henderson mold.
And you just made a good point, right? What did we just talk about? This is a long-ass season. What's the one thing you need? Energy. Who wants to be playing in Cincinnati on a Tuesday, 1 o'clock? You know who wants to do that? Ellie De La Cruz.
Fuck yeah.
You know who doesn't want to do? A lot of the older veterans who got their money and things like that. And it's funny that you said that because like I just feel like that division is such a grab bag of like, whoever wants it will take it. And the Brewers are always there. I'm never gonna like completely discount the Brewers. But it's just one of those things where it's like I really just believe a lot in the Reds this year. That's probably the team, not to go, I'm not picking them for the World Series, but I definitely think they can secure that last walk-off spot. Just because I think the NL is just so much tougher than the AL.
It's a dogfight.
All right, yeah,
absolutely.
So we can switch over now to finally talk about the big move that happened. Soto is now on the New York Mets. How did you feel about the signing of him to the Mets, and what is, I guess, your overall expectation of the team?
I was so happy. I'm a certified Yankees hater. I'll wear that proudly on my sleeve. Not even for any real reason other than their fans just are so goddamn annoying. Sorry.
Makes sense. I live here, so.
Yeah. Sorry to any Yankees fans. I think it just like was perfectly encapsulated in that World Series game where that guy grabbed Mookie at the foul ball. That's just like that type of energy you're not going to find anywhere else outside of the Yankee Stadium. So I was happy to see him go to the Mets because I want to see, in quotes here, little brother, like, take a swing and knock the Yankees out. I was rooting for a Subway Series last year because it would have been so fun. But I'm excited to see what he can do in Queens. That is probably one of the most interesting players in baseball, between the level of gravitas he brings to every at bat, to his actual ability on the field, and to his energy that he brings to a clubhouse. Like, he obviously is a sort of like, a juice that everybody can sip on.
Yeah.
So I think I'm super excited. I think it's an awesome fit. I love that they just balled out and gave him the money. I think it's exactly the type of things the Mets should be doing. And I hope it propels them to, a World Series. I hope they get a shot. What are you feeling as a Met fan? Where are you with
As
it?
a Mets fan, yes. So when I first started this podcast, the first episode I did was with one of my really good friends, Carrie. We worked together at the Source magazine. Big Mets fan as well, from New York. And I say from New York specifically because when you're born and raised in this city, man, like, you want to talk about obnoxious Yankee fans? It's like all the time. And look, if my team won as much as the Yankees won, I'd probably be talking a lot of cash too. I deal with them a lot because I'm also a Knicks fan, and everyone here is a Knicks fan. So it's just the bleed over is so interesting to deal with. But we had this conversation, and basically we used the quote that Mikhail Prokhorov, the guy who used to own the Nets, who sold it, said / Jay-Z, is that the city's under new management. Like, I can't tell you what a devastating loss that was to Yankees fans. I mean, that was devastating. It would have been one thing if he went to the Dodgers. He went to the Mets strictly on money. And the fact that they don't have that anymore, that you can just say, we want him. We were talking about it on the pod. The Yankees have never missed the playoffs. Or, sorry, let me rephrase that. The Yankees have never been under 500 in my life. In my entire life of living on this earth, they've never lost 82 games. Ever. And it was always, I remember when Judge was up for his contract, there was never in my mind he was leaving. Because I always said, if the Yankees want someone, the Yankees are going to get him.
Totally.
It didn't matter what it was, what this, all that. If the Yankees wanted them, they would get them. And this was the first guy that they wanted badly, and they didn't get him. And the fact that basically, I absolutely think the Soto thing kind of went along with them allowing players to grow beards. You can't stay the same. You don't have the bag anymore. And when you don't have the bag, you can't dictate terms. So now you're like everyone else. And I'm a couple years, I won't be surprised if we're seeing names on jerseys. Like all that whole like bigger than the team on my chest, that's getting thrown away so fast. You'll do whatever it takes. Vlad Guerrero's like, I want the name on my jersey. So, okay, here we go. We'll sign the check. And it completely flipped the dynamics of the two teams on its head. Now, I will say that comes with expectations, right? I'm worried about the Mets pitching, but like I said this last year, and this is kind of my overall theme about baseball. I don't care about baseball till we get to about Memorial Day. Really, we get to Independence Day, because you just got to kind of stay about 500-ish, have a stretch where you win like 12 out of 16, 13 out of 17, stay 500, have another stretch where you win about 13 out of 15 games, and that's how you get to like 90-plus wins. It's pretty not simple. I don't want to make it so easy, but that's kind of how it goes. And it's about getting your bats and your pitching ready for October. And that, for me, is where this team will be judged ultimately. And when we get later into the season, I'll just see if they're on the right track or if it's all falling apart. But that's kind of how I feel about the Mets.
So are you sort of like Are you a cautiously optimistic Mets fan, or are you like a everything's going to go wrong Mets fan?
No. I am not a everything's going to go wrong. Mind you, my first 2 seasons of watching the Mets was when they got ran down by the Phillies twice.
Oh.
So I came into this game 100 grand strong, okay? Like, I saw the pain to start with. No, I don't. I'm not cautiously optimistic. I'm not like, when you have the talent, you got the talent, and talent, unfortunately, it just plays. And this is absolutely, this is actually the one sport where you can have talent and the team falls apart, right? Their lineup is too good. Like, their lineup is too good. And like I said, I'm concerned about the pitching. 2 of their starting pitchers are hurt. Their 3rd starting pitcher was a reliever that's now their opening day starter. Their best pitcher from 2 years ago was hurt all of last year, and now he's coming back. And the bullpen's always, whatever, even though they have a really good closer in Edwin Diaz. I am, like I said, the first 2 months of the season I kind of throw out. Just don't be like last year when they were 11 games under 500 and basically had to like sprint to get into the playoffs. I don't want to deal with that again, but I feel good. I feel good about the team. I feel good about the manager, and I especially feel good about Lindor because that's a guy who holds these people accountable. I love the fact that Alonso's back, and I'm just looking at back of baseball cards. There's one lineup you can tell me is better than them, maybe, and that's the Dodgers. I can't see another one of us having. We can have maybe a conversation about, if everything goes right for the Braves. Padres are still really good.
Phillies maybe. Phillies maybe. Bryce Harper MVP season.
Phillies have a really good. Phillies have a really good. They have a really good lineup. I just fully healthy. I think the Mets have it. I think it's that's the thing, and I think they have to get their pitching right, but I think their lineup is too good to not win you, 88 games, 89 games. And again, like I said before, the NL's tough. They're in the toughest division too. I would not be surprised if they don't win the division. They have won the division in 10 years. So yeah, that would be my take. We can slide now over to the AL real quick, and we'll since we already mentioned them. The Yankees. I don't want to feed your hatred. I don't hate the Yankees. It's just more of like a to me, but I'm really concerned about them. Garrett Cole's hurt. They basically got to have Marcus Stroman start. They lost Juan Soto. Giancarlo Stanton is already hurt.
Done.
They basically are betting on 2 former MVPs to be 2 of their best hitters, who are also guys who might be washed, and their best player is in his early 30s.
It's scary.
The only reason I can't panic on them is because the AL is so bad. It's so bad, and there's so many wins there. So I can't get to this panic stage of they'll miss the playoffs. There's too many. The White Sox are there, man. There's too many bad teams.
The AL Central is there. The AL Central is a disaster.
And they've been beating up on them for years.
Literally.
So while I'm not as high on them, I can't shake the idea that before Cole was hurt, I thought that even with their flaws, I still thought that they were the best team in the AL. And then it was kind of everyone else, a little bit like the Dodgers. But now I feel like you can pick about maybe 8 or 9 teams that you can legitimately say, I think they can make the World Series.
Totally. I totally agree. I mean, I think for me, it's also the Yankees are still the team to beat. Until the Orioles can prove that they can play playoff baseball, the Yankees are the team to beat. Right? These kids cannot keep doing this to us. We need to see them.
It's that hot start, man.
Yeah.
It's always the hot start. And then all of a sudden you're out in the wild card round.
Literally. Okay, so my one team that I think is important to look at is the Rangers. Their lineup got so injured last year. It was the injury bug literally dismantled from top to bottom, both hitting and pitching. So I think it's the type of thing where it's hard because, 2 years ago they bought themselves through free agency this incredible team and dominated and played a master class of that type of roster building in the new era of baseball, which, we haven't really seen a roster get built that way. So I kind of love that team for what they did.
Yeah, it's basically just through free agency.
Totally. And they were like, we're going to go get our guys and we're going to be.
And two of their best hitters or pitchers that they got didn't pitch.
Totally. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the Rangers are the team that I am tentatively excited about being good again. Because I think that, as you say, the AL is so open. There are so many wins between opening day and the playoffs to just scoop up against really bad teams and really bad rosters. And a healthy Rangers team with a healthy Josh Young, who I think I'm waiting on to have that sort of like breakout season where he shows that he's a true MVP candidate, and I think he's gonna. Maybe that's pie in the sky, but I think it's the Rangers as the second team for me.
Yeah, I don't like the Yankees, but you're never gonna get me to root for Boston. Just can't. It won't happen. But I actually think the Red Sox are gonna be really good. I really like Garrett Crochet.
Totally.
I like their lineup a lot. Their defense is bad. It's real bad. But I think that they'll be able to hit enough to actually win that division. And Alex Cora. That guy knows how to win games. And he's a really good manager. I think that they have a good combination of pitching and enough hitting that I like. I'm really worried about their defense. But that to me is the team that I actually would put money on. If I check out their odds to win the division, they are third, right? Well, they're actually tied with the Orioles. The Yankees are favorite at plus 155, followed by the Orioles and the Red Sox, both at plus 280 from FanDuel. And like we just said, the Rays are tearing it down. I think the Blue Jays are going to be awful. We'll see if Vlad gets. That's the thing I want to end on. Is Vlad Guerrero, and I love teams that have good managers and like legitimately good hitting, right? And if they can just kind of piecemeal their defense, just piecemeal it together, I think they'll win the division. That's my surprise team.
I like that pick, especially because I think Yoshida, once healthy, is probably going to be better than he was last year. But my fear is actually with Bregman, with their big signing, because I just feel like he's been on a decline.
He's down decline, yeah,
for like 4 years, and it normally, I'm sure there are counterexamples to this, but normally that doesn't mean you're going to be better. When you go to a new team and you're in a new environment. Normally it means that you're going to continue to get worse. That doesn't mean that Alex Bregman's worse is not serviceable or is not even really good or even is pretty good. But I fear for them in a way that they're buying high on a player that is going to just get older until the point that he, falls off the cliff.
And that's my fear too. Like, because correct me if I'm wrong, is Trevor Story playing second for them?
I think so. Trevor Story is, let's look. Trevor Story is going to play shortstop for them.
And Bregman's playing second?
No, they're playing. It looks like Fangraphs is projecting that they're going to have Christian Campbell and Bregman share the load on second. And then on third, they're going to play Bregman and Devers. Yeah.
So this is going to be one of those 5 outfielders, one spot or 4 spots.
Yes, exactly.
And we'll have a rotating at DH.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I'm actually curious about. What do you think the optimal idea is for a DH? My opinion on the DH position is if you don't have a guy who's like a stud, right? Like a, David Ortiz in his prime kind of guy, right?
Shohei last year.
Yes, exactly, right? A guy you just stick in there, you're going to get production from. My take on the DH, and I think I think this is how it should be done later. Is I do think it should be kind of a rotating position. I think that you should have it where if you have 5 infielders for 4 spots, or you have 4 outfielders for 3 spots, right? I don't think it's that big of a deal if it's like, all right, we're gonna have. I just have the Mets in my mind. Soto's our DH today, and it's just gonna be Nimmo, Suri, and Jesse Winker. It's gonna be our right fielder, right? We just want to take his legs up for the day, whatever, boom. But next day we're putting him back in there. But then, hey, Lindor, we need you to be our DH today because we want to put Acuna in there for shortstop just to give you like a mini break. I think that that's the best way to go about the DH, but tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I totally agree. I think actually we can look to basketball sort of as an example for this, where the best teams in basketball are now the deepest teams. And I think that we're probably going to see some of that happen with baseball, where the superstars are going to these bigger markets more and more often, and they're getting gobbled up by the Dodgers at a rate that, we've never really seen before. So the teams that are going to be great in the sort of, that aren't the Dodgers, aren't the Yankees, aren't the Mets, are those teams that are deep as heck. The teams that have 4 great outfielders that they can rotate, keep healthy, keep happy because they're all playing, keep rested because there's enough rotation, the same way that they can do that with their infield. I think that is what the DH spot is going to become for the teams that aren't the biggest. And I think that's actually probably a healthy place for baseball to be, because I think that it will keep it interesting, for one, because if you don't know who's going to line up at DH every day, but it will also keep the players, hopefully more healthy because they'll get to rest more. So I think it's the type of thing that I would be excited about if that's where it goes. And I think it will, but it's still, up in there.
All right. Last point for this one, and a little bit of a not a surprise, but a little bit of a bit off topic, because it's funny we didn't put the World Series champ on the list of rundowns of teams. And I'm curious to see how this Dodger thing goes. There's a part of me that thinks that baseball loves this. I think in terms of huge market, legendary team, legacy team, big stars, all on one team. They're going to be on ESPN, Roku, Apple TV, Fox, you name it, all the time, right? You're going to see the Dodgers damn near every single time you turn into a baseball game. But I do wonder if this type of gobbling up of especially Japanese players, because they just have a decisive advantage over especially East Coast teams, of it's closer to Japan. It's easier for some of their friends and families and fans to watch the games. Baseball already has the Dodgers in Japan playing. And I'm curious for your perspective of, does this trigger a salary cap? Now, as someone who comes from sports, the sports, basketball is my favorite one. Salary cap's always been around. I oftentimes think salary caps are a way to keep owners from spending the money that they need to spend on teams, and they argue around it. You just see in the NBA, they create the second apron. It's super difficult to keep teams together. Teams like the Boston Celtics might have to break up in a couple of years just because it's going to get way too expensive for them. That's part of the reason why they just sold for $6 billion today. It was just announced today that they were just sold for that much money. So how do you feel about the Dodgers in the ecosystem of baseball? Is it a sense of like, this is good, this is the marketable team, one of the marketable teams, definitely the most marketable team in the National League, bringing in eyeballs from all over the world? Or is it more of an unfair advantage that they have by this spending, and that like some sort of cap is kind of coming into play?
I think it's starting with the second part with a cap. I think it is purely not a good idea for baseball. I think that the owners will use it and manipulate it in a way that they will, be like, sorry, my hands are tied. I can't spend money while raking in more and more money every year. I do not trust owners to do anything but what benefits them the most monetarily. So I think that they will use whatever system is in place to do that. And I don't think that it would actually help out smaller market teams, because the problems with smaller markets would still exist, which are the cities that you live in, and the weather that is there, and what's going on in that city. Like, Shohei's never going to move to Cincinnati. I'm sorry, Cincinnati, but it's not happening. So it's like there are still problems that it will exist for those teams that will still make it just as hard for them to sign players, except they won't have the possibility of spending more than larger market teams, which is what would be the way to like lure a player to that type of destination. So I think for that side of the question, I think that I'm anti salary cap in baseball. For the first part of the question, it's hard to say right now. I think that it is really worrying to me that the best team in baseball last year is able to drop, I don't know how much, $500 million on a couple players and look like they're going to be the best team in baseball for 10 years. That is scary and worrying.
You can argue they got the two best pitchers on the market.
Literally. And now they have Shohei coming back as a pitcher. So,
as a pitcher, too.
So it's like they have the three best pitchers on the market. So I'm really scared, because I genuinely am scared for what it would do to the sport to have a team be that good for that long. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that there is an unfair competitive advantage happening? Do you feel like the Dodgers are, abusing the system, or are they just playing harder?
I think that there should be a Japanese draft. I think we've gotten to the point where you have to almost place them in a within the draft, just so I feel like everyone has the same rights to draft them, because we're essentially talking about rookies, and I understand they're coming from another baseball league and things of that nature. The ages of these players are still really young, and the only one that you can even argue that didn't go to the Dodgers was Kodai Senga, and he went to the Mets, another big market team.
And Seiya for the Cubs.
Yeah.
Seiya Suzuki. Yeah.
And so when you just have it so much that this is just like this big market, little market kind of dynamic, I think that that part of it is that if you're coming out, I feel like the draft makes the most sense. I agree 100%. I hate salary caps. I don't like owners having the excuse to basically say our hands are tied, because I look at a team, again, like the Pirates. You have a guy, you just lost Garrett Cole, was that 5 years ago? And now you got the second coming of him, and you think the same thing's not going to get played out in 4 years, when it's like 3 years on his contract? It's going to be like, well, is Ski's going to stay or not? Then it's 2 years on the deal. Is Steve's going to stay or not? Like, you're putting yourself already behind the 8 ball when you don't have to, okay? And it's very different instead of like a rookie quarterback. I wouldn't say like go all in with a rookie quarterback, right? But baseball, I think, baseball small markets does a disservice to its own fans by before the season starting not even giving yourself a chance.
100%.
Like, I know the White Sox aren't a small market team. They have no chance to make the playoffs. None. The Toronto, what's it called, them Raptors, the Blue Jays, no chance to make the playoffs. None. And you're dead in the water. And there will always be bottom feeders. You'll always have bottom feeders in every sport. That's not what I'm getting at. But like you said, in football, hope springs eternal. The Raiders next year can think they can make the playoffs. The Giants next year think that they can make the playoffs. If I asked a White Sox fan, hey, when's the next time you think you'll make the playoffs? They might say 2030. Like, you shouldn't have to wait that long to be one of the 8 best teams in your conference or league, rather. Like, or at least there's something palatable and there's something great. That's the one thing I love about baseball is there's something real to a pennant race. There's something real to like you're fighting to get into the playoffs. Every game in September matters. It could matter. And even if you fall a little short, like the Diamondbacks fell short last year, were any of their fans pissed that they weren't trying to get in? They made the World Series the year before that, and that's another quote unquote small market team. So I think there actually needs to be more penalties for teams not trying. Me personally, I think that's actually the way it should go. I don't think they need a cap. I think there should be actual detriments to you not spending to a certain salary, to you not using your international money, and just be smart. Just make smart moves. But this idea that you're just gonna be like, yeah, hands up in the air. What can you do? I think that's just nonsense from baseball, and I would really wish that they would tap into more of allowing the young guys to play better. I do like the fact though now that they let young players come up earlier. I love that now because it used to be 6 years before you see a guy. Bryce Harper just came right out of high school. Basically, I don't think he ever played a minor league game. I think he just stepped right in on the Nationals. That's
insane.
Which is insane at 18. He did that.
Crazy. No, I mean, and I agree. I think that it would never happen, but a cap floor, not a cap ceiling that you have to spend at is something that I would love to see. You go below the cap floor, you lose a draft pick. There are 1 million draft picks in fucking baseball. So how about you lose like 4 of them? I don't know. There's like 30 rounds of draft. So like there's a penalty. Like you can do it, but you get penalized. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's the type of thing I would love to see that won't happen. Yeah. Like so many rules in sports.
Yeah, I know. But thank you so much, Lane. I really appreciate you stopping on and participating. Anything you want to plug or promote or shout out or thank?
No, I want to thank you for having me on. First of all, this was awesome. I can't wait to cover more baseball this season. I want to just shout out the Cubs and say that I hope that we do better than I fear that we're going to do, and I hope that Tucker is an incredible savior of our team. So go all Cubs fans. I love you guys.
Nice. Or you can always trade him at the deadline.
Yeah, or you can trade him at the deadline. Exactly. Yeah, we'll trade him with the Mets. Yeah.
No, I don't think they can afford that. Vlad Guerrero's the guy that they want to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, thank you, Lane, so much for joining, and thank you all for listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. Again, like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, and I'll be back with you guys next week.